Alright, so there's the carburetor in all its glory, and you can see here I've already taken a rag and wiped off most of the dirt that I could so we don't accidentally knock it in here while we're working on this thing. So our two best friends here are going to be a bottle of throttle body cleaner, and I've got a set of carburetor jet brushes that I like to use to try to clean this stuff out inside here. Step one is going to be getting the float bowl off the bottom. And that is going to be done. There's a big brass drain plug in here, and that's a 1/2 inch size. These are usually stuck on fairly good. I got it down here in the grass because it's leaking fuel right now. You may have to maneuver to where you can get a good grip on it and loosen that thing up. We're going to have some fuel leak out, that's okay. So already I can kind of see some problems, right? So we've got the plug out. You can see that black sealing ring around there, but what you also can see, you see that white corrosion around the tip of this plug here? That's pretty indicative of what we're going to find throughout the carburetor, which is why if it ran at all, at best it would have been surging like a banshee, sputtering and stopping and smoking and you name it. So we're going to get all this apart. And then the bowl, simply, yours might be stuck because there's a gasket between the bowl and the carb. Just ease her down. There you can see the gasket already I'm talking about. Don't tear it if you don't need to. And it's not terrible inside, but it does look like we've got some older fuel, and you can see some dirt down there in the bottom, or in the bottom left corner, if you will. A little bit of dirt around the ring underneath that seal. We're going to clean all that out, get it all out of the way. So the first step here is we're going to take off the float and the needle. There's a pin right here that it should be free. This float should be doing just exactly what it's doing here for you. You should be able to pull this pin out by hand. Oh, and then you see the needle just dropped out. If you cannot pull this needle out by hand easily, may have a little corrosion on it, you can take some pliers, but be easy with them, because if you grip this pin too hard with the pliers, you can score it up, and then when you slide everything back together, when you reassemble this, that float will not go up and down freely. It'll get stuck and hung, and you're going to have more problems. In this case, this one came right out, and you can see, before I really had a chance to show you, the needle fell out, which is no big deal. I'm going to show you it all goes back together, but it lives inside this orifice right here, and then as the float goes up and down, so does this needle, and as it comes down with the float, that allows fuel to come into the bowl. As the bowl fills up, the float goes up, so does the needle, and that shuts off the fuel. So just small movements like this lets fuel in, shuts fuel off. Okay, but we can go ahead and take that out. But we're going to run these jet brushes through everything that we can and make sure there's nothing. We'll make sure there's nothing in the way. So there I got out a pretty good chunk of, if you can see it, on the tip of that brush, I got out a pretty good chunk of corrosion right there. And let me tell you, on these small engines, it does not take much to screw up that carburetor. You can buy these jet cleaning little tools on eBay for about $1. With these two particular orifices in this carburetor, find the smallest brush you have, which is basically twisted wire, and take it up in there, kind of ream it around, get out everything you can. Even if you can't get it out, if you can get it loose, if we get this motor running, sometimes you can push this stuff through and out, and then hopefully burn it up in the motor without having to take the carb again to clean out yet another choke point. You can buy down in here. You might be able to see there's kind of a brown ring in there, and it's usually someone will correct me, I'm sure. It's usually a hard piece of rubber or a hard piece of plastic. That's removable. You can replace that, actually, that seat. The needle and seat will come as a kit, and you can get a new float and all that stuff too if you need to. I've been doing this a while. I've never really found a reason to replace the seat unless it was totally damaged for some reason, and you might not be able to see it, but I can, and this one looks okay to me. If you have done everything you can do and it's smoking black and it feels like it's flooding out on you, you can go ahead and replace the needle and seat. The seat may be too hard to form a good seal around the needle, and that's possible. I've not run into it, but just remember that's out there. And you've got another orifice here. Run your brushes up into all this stuff. This one right here in the middle where I've got it, that goes all the way up in there. This is probably your main jet. I'm not a carburetor expert. Make sure this sucker is clean right here. So ream this thing around. Make sure you're good to go. Also, don't ignore your fuel inlet from the fuel tank. As you saw when I took that off, the fuel line off, there was corrosion on it, so there's probably corrosion in it. So try to find a brush that'll fit inside here. Make sure you clean that out good. You're done. Take some throttle body cleaner and just spray the heck out of this thing. I'm going to spray down here where the needle sits, whatever this passageway is called here. I cleaned some gunk out of there too, along with inside your fuel inlet. Spray it all down, and then you can get the rest of this dirt off at the same time. Okay guys, so just so you have something to look at here, when you spray that carb cleaner inside, this orifice here, you should see it come out right here. There's an orifice right there. Okay, so that's a good indication. You spray carb cleaner in here, you should see it come out of here. You spray carb cleaner in here, you should see it coming out. If you open your butterflies up, you should see it coming out of the inside. Make sure you clean all that stuff out in there. And I saw one more orifice I overlooked before, actually two. There's one here. Make sure you clean this out. And there's a smaller one right there. This one is highly corroded, so I'm going to give that one a go right now. So this is kind of a two-step in here. You got the smallest brush should go all the way down to the end. Your bigger wire brushes, you're going to feel they're going to get stopped before they go in very far. So use your smallest brush and know that that's going to go down there at least a 3/8 of an inch or so. Okay, and again, clear this whole thing out with carb cleaner. What I do on this is if I spray inside this orifice here, it's a carburetor, you know, you got flow through here. I should be looking for fuel to come out one of these other ones. I'm no Briggs and Stratton carburetor certified mechanic here, but if there's an opening here, there should be a corresponding opening somewhere else. So if I'm spraying carb cleaner in here and it's coming back and hit me in the face, that means there's a blockage in there. You need to work on it a little more. But right now, every single one of these, if I spray in there, it comes out of somewhere else in a really good stream. So before you start making things worse, I say we go ahead and put it back together. Plastic float like this, depending on the age of the mower, well, no, anytime you take it apart, you want to shake it. Make sure that you don't hear any fuel sloshing around in there. If you do, it's got a hole in it, it's got fuel in it, and it's sinking down to the bottom, and it's going to flood your carburetor. Okay, but if you're relatively sure that your float is good, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take this needle, you see that slot there? It's going to slide into that. The head of that needle is going to slide in that slot just like so. And then, right here where my thumb is, that's where the seat is for the needle. So I'm going to go ahead and just set the carburetor right down onto the needle. Okay. Now holding it gently, take the pin that we cleaned up and didn't screw up earlier and slide it through to where it catches the plastic float. Okay, just like so. And then test for your operation here. Up, down, up, down, up, down. It's pretty smooth. Okay. Now if you're a real man or a real woman, you can stick your mouth on here, blow, and when the float is down, you should let air pass. When the float is up, it should stop the air from coming out. Okay, so that'll be the same thing for the fuel. And I think we've got a winner here. So now what we're going to do, set this aside for a moment, try to keep it clean. Now on our bowl, I'm just going to take this gasket off. I'm going to clean it up real good. I'm going to clean the bowl up real good. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of corrosion down in the bottom of this bowl now that the fuel's dried out of it. All that, guys, all that stuff on these small engines, it all matters. The Briggs and Stratton motors are really good, but they can't run with all this junk in the fuel system. Okay, so we're going to clean it all out. throw this bowl back on, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have a smooth running lawnmower. So all I did was clean out the bowl. I cleaned the dirt off of that gasket. We've already got our float needle and seat back in place. So just set this down over that gasket very carefully. Make sure that gasket fits evenly all the way around the base of the carburetor. All right. If it does not, you're going to have leaks and problems. You have to take it apart again. Okay, it should form a pretty tight seal, and it should be even and uniform. Fuel bowl plug itself has an orifice that goes all the way through. Make sure you clean that out nice and good, and then the one in the center as well. The one in the center has a very, very small secondary orifice in there, if you can see it. My smallest brush here will just barely fit inside the top of it. Clean it out as best you can, and then again, my old trick is if I'm spraying it in one, I should see it come out the other one, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Make sure there's no dirt hanging around that black gasket. Make sure you have a black gasket. It should tighten up pretty easily by hand until it reaches the surface of the bowl. And you don't have to crank this down there. Just make it snug, okay? You got that big, thick rubber O-ring that goes around the top of the bowl to do your sealing, okay? You don't need to put monster pressure on it. And with that, this is ready to go back on the motor. And if you see here, I know some of you probably noticed, look, I've damaged this a little bit, or it was probably damaged already. I don't worry too much about this. As long as it is all there, it's all in one piece, and it's not missing a chunk out of it, I'm just going to throw it back on there, because this is just the seal between the air filter housing and then the carburetor itself. So if you're shaky about it, you could probably make a new one out of like cardboard, box type cardboard if you wanted to, so you don't have to buy a new one, or seal it up with just a touch of RTV. Don't go crazy. And we're going to pop this back on. So you got your 3/8 bolt here, and you've got your 3 8mm head bolts here. Make sure you tighten those down. Next, we're going to put our air cleaner assembly back on, and remember, it's just these 3 8mm bolts. They're going to bolt basically onto the carburetor, and then the carburetor attaching plates over here. And she's starting to look like a lawnmower again. Okay, we slid our top cover back on, put in these 2 Phillips head screws, just snug them down, and I already did, but I did a leak check on this, making sure there's nothing dripping from the carburetor, and there is not. It's a good sign. Make sure your spark plug is hooked back up again if you had that on or had that off doing some troubleshooting. We'll snug these down. Normally I would have test fired this just to make sure I wasn't going to look like a fool before I ended the video and try to start it and see if it runs, but I'm so confident it's going to run, I'm not even going to do that. We're going to go out there fresh. You're going to see what I see, and we're going to hear some life here, I'm pretty sure. Let's see what we have. It would have started, but my hand slipped off the safety. Okay, that was terrible video, but you heard it run. It's running great. That's it. I spent no money on this, and I even cleaned it up a little. It looks great. So if you have any questions about what I did, hit me up in the comments, but that's how you fix them for free.